And good morning. Welcome to New Day Kenya. This is the broadcast that kickstarts your morning in discussing the state of affairs, including politics and matters that regard the society and the economy. And this morning, our focus is on President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession. And as he crafts his succession in 2022, leaders' desire to be the next head of state are complicating efforts by the head of state to build an outfit that will deliver victory in next year's polls. That will be coming up shortly here on the broadcast and also on the publications as we do a review of the dailies. And the hashtag on Twitter is NewDayKE. Deputy President William Ruto has told off opposition leaders of being bothersome and stubborn in seeking endorsement from President Uhuru Kenyatta ahead of 2022 succession politics. The second in command, while in a church service here in Nairobi County, called on the ODM party chief Raila Odinga and One Kenya Alliance leaders to brace themselves for a tough political battle meant to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. Our political affairs reporter Jeff Khaimba with more on that story.
With the efforts by President Uhuru Kenyatta to unite the former NASA principals hitting a dead end, Deputy President William Ruto has accused the opposition chiefs of being troublesome in the Jubilee administration. The second man in command, while in a church service at the African Holy Ghost Christian Church at Huruma in Nairobi County, slammed the ODM boss Raila Odinga and One Kenya leaders Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Wetangula and Gideon Moi of seeking for endorsement instead of seeking the mandate from the Kenyans.
So mimi nataka niwaambie hawa, waacheni kupoteza wakati ya rais. Nyinyi kama hamwezi kujipanga, tutakutana na nyinyi huko mbele. Waacheni rais afanyie kazi wa Kenya milioni 45. Rais si mfanyikazi yenu nyinyi peke yenu. Ama namna gani? Tunaelewana? Kwani tulichagua rais aende afanye kazi ya NASA? Kuunganisha watu ambao wameshindwa kuungana? Hapana, hapana. No.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is in a tight corner with each of the candidates in the opposition asking for a helping hand ahead of his exit. However, DP Ruto is concerned about the game plan to lock him out of State House.
Rais hachachaguliwa kushughulikia watu 5-6 wa upande hiyo nyingine.
Na tunataka tuambie NASA na upinzani wawachane na rais wetu afanyie kazi wa Kenya. Kazi ya kuunganisha NASA ama upinzani wao wafanye. Sisi tumejipanga na tuko na candidate wetu ambaye ni William Samoei Ruto kusonga mbele.
Raila Odinga is said to be extending an olive branch to Kalonzo Musyoka and other NASA chiefs with an intent of being supported for the 50th time. But his former co-principals have voted to be on the ballot, a move likely to complicate 2022 political arithmetic further.
Sasa haiwezekani kwamba kwa miaka 4 watu 5-6 wanamsumbua rais atitubadilisha katiba kwa sababu ya tamaa yao ya kutafuta vyeo. Saa hizi hiyo imeshindikana, tena wanazidi kusumbua rais saa hizi ati sisi utupange kama watu ya NASA. Sasa rais anasumbuka na hiyo watu kujaribu na hawaelewani, kila mtu wako na tamaa, huyu wako na tamaa. Huyu mwingine anasema sijui yako na risasi ngapi. Ule mwingine anasema hawezi kufanya kazi na huyu mwingine.
The DP Ruto sentiments comes in the wake of the NASA principals being embroiled in a public spat and making the accusations against each other.
Sasa wanamsumbua rais badala ya rais kufanyia kazi wa Kenya. Sasa rais amekuwa ati anashughulikia watu 5 hapo kujaribu kuwapanga na tamaa yao na kiburi yao na mambo yao ya ego kubwa, mpaka Kenya imekwama kwa sababu wanaume wachache hapo wanazunguka wakitafuta mambo yao. Tunataka tuwaambie nyinyi, wakati mnaendelea na confusion, Wakenya wale wengine wote tayari wamejipanga, tunawangoja. Ama mnasemaje watu wa kanisa? Sisi tumejipanga na tunajua dunia tunaenda namna gani na tunajua ni uchumi kwanza.
The DP expressed his confidence in how he will win the elections if NASA relations remains unstable. Ruto's remarks were inspired by the recent fallout in NASA that saw Kalonzo Musyoka blamed the co-principals for not sharing the funds equally, adding that he will not support Raila Odinga a third time. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Haemba.
And a section of politicians in Mombasa County allied to the United Democratic Alliance Party UDA are calling out the ODM party chief Raila Odinga for allegedly promoting corruption and divisive politics ahead of 2022 elections. This comes barely a week after the ODM party leader said his administration will imprison corrupt leaders if he ascends to power in 2022.
Barely a week has gone by when ODM leader Raila Odinga said his administration will imprison corrupt leaders come 2022.
Wezi ambao natakana wawe shimulatewa. Wanatembea na mahelikopta kila mahali kuja hapa kutoa pesa pande hii pande hii pande hii. Hii ni taifa gani? Hii ni taifa gani? Sisi tukishika hatamu ya utawala hao wezi wataingia ndani wote.
And yet a section of leaders allied to UDA have taken a swipe at him. Nyali Member of Parliament Muhammad Ali has called out the former Prime Minister, saying he has done very little to lead by example.
Juzi Raila Odinga alikuja Mombasa. Akasema yeye akipata uongozi atafunga wezi wote. Mimi nataka kumwambia wezi wakubwa katika Kenya hii wako ndani ya ODM.
Speaking at Renaissance Center in Mombasa, Muhammad Ali, who had earlier indicated that he would contest for Mombasa governor, announced to shelve his ambition for Hassan Omar, saying he believes in Omar's political philosophy. Omar, who decamped from the Wiper Party, is vying for gubernatorial position through UDA in 2022.
Sisi tunataka hustlers nation, watu maskini waliodhulumika, watu ambao wameshindwa kuweka sahani juu ya meza. Hawa watu watupatie kiongozi aliyesoma, aliye na maono, na atupe wabunge waliosoma, waliye na maono, na mtupatie ma MCA watakaofanya kazi na governor hapa waliosoma, sio wale wa kusema boss anasema tutie sahihi tutie. Hawajui wanatia nini sahihi.
Former Mombasa Senator Hassan Omar expressed his confidence that UDA party will produce 3 governors at the coast.
Hakuna mahali popote ndani ya pwani ambapo ODM itaweza kushinda UDA. Nowhere. Ashikane Raila, ashikane Uhuru, ashikane Mudavadi, ashikane Kalonzo, ashikane Gideon Moi, ashikane yoyote. Na Murathe na Atuoli. Lakini asubuhi mapema tutawabwaga.
And still with politics, calls to resuscitate the dead NASA coalition seems to be hitting a snag, with the ANC party chief Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka of the Wiper Party reiterating that the opposition leader Raila Odinga cannot be trusted and that he is fueling fear and animosity amongst members of the coalition. And as our political affairs reporter Jeff Haemba tells us in the following report, One Kenya Alliance leaders have remained firm not to turn their back on the quest for presidency.
Calls for a united country ahead of 2022 polls are on high gear, with political bigwigs Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka urging the electoral body IEBC to carry out a free and fair elections. Musalia Mudavadi led his troops at Jesus Teaching Ministry JTM in Nairobi, asked the Wafula Chebukati-led commission not to plunge the country into anarchy through election malpractices. Kalonzo Musyoka, on the other hand, while attending a church harambe at Cathedral of Praise, Imara Daima Embakasi South, told of Raila Odinga about NASA Unity Pact.
Tuombe Kenya iwe na amani. Wakati wa mpito ama transition kutoka kwa serikali moja kwenda kwenye nyingine, kutoka kwa serikali ya Uhuru na kwa serikali ambayo Wakenya watachagua 2022, tunataka tuwe na transition ya amani.
Nitofautiane na wenzangu ambao wanasema kwamba tusipoungana Kenya itaangamia. Kenya haiwezi kuangamia. Watakavyoungana wataungana kwa nia safi bila uoga.
Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka, who are among the presidential contenders come 2022 under One Kenya Alliance, accused Raila Odinga of being the cause of the NASA fallout, and thus his calls to unite are ill-timed.
Tunataka IEBC iwe imara na IEBC itende kazi yake ya kuhakikisha Wakenya wanapiga kura kwa njia ya kiheshima ili tusipate fujo kama tumekuwa tukipata siku nyingine.
Our friends are afraid. Nasema tusipoungana we shall perish. That is negative energy. I want to suggest that we don't preach fear to Kenyans. There's no one individual ambaye anaweza kupingana na mipangilio ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Hakuna Kenya hii. Hakuna.
The members of parliament who accompanied the NC boss Musalia Mudavadi, led by Kakamega County Senator Cleophas Malala, the MPs Tindi Mwale of Butere and Titus Hamal of Lurambi, and former Speaker Kenneth Marande reiterated not to form any coalition with Raila Odinga unless their boss Musalia Mudavadi is the presidential flag bearer.
Hii mambo ambayo pengine ilikuwa inatusumbua hapo 2013, yule ambaye ni president sahi alisema ati ameona madimoni. Sasa leo madimoni imekwisha.
Uongo wa government ambayo itapunguza bei ya vitu kwa wananchi. Lakini ukiambiwa na watu wako ati inside NASA mkae NASA tu, where will the rest of us go? We want to look forward and build new friendships, build new partnerships. Some of us cannot enter NASA, but we can support you for president. Create coalitions, get new friends. Tembea naye, uangalie mbele. The future does not look back.
Mimi ningependa tafadhali utuombee leo. Ile ndoa ya NASA, tafadhali Apostle utuombee, party leader wetu wasirudi huko. Let him focus for the future.
Na sisi tunaeleza Mheshimiwa Musalia hakuna maneno ya yeye kurudi atuwasikizane kwa NASA. Kwa sababu NASA walitufukuza wakasema hakuna NASA, imekufa, tukatolewa katika committee.
There was a time for NASA na mkanasa na NASA yenyewe imenaswa na waliyekuwa captain mkuu akanaswa. Don't look back to that moribund thing called NASA.
Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi anajali akina mama, anajali vijana, na hiyo ndio mfumo wa chama cha Amani National Congress.
It's alleged ODM boss Raila Odinga is rooting for a political unity with former NASA chiefs including Wiper boss Kalonzo Musyoka, who says political formations are expected ahead of 2022. But Wiper members of parliament who accompanied him in the church Harambee, led by Joshua Kimil of Kaiti, Robert Mboi of Kadhiani, and Julius Mawadha of Embakasi South, hate back saying it's time their son to be on the ballot.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, katika hii nchi ya Kenya tunataka tuone hali ya uchumi ikiwa nzuri. One Kenya Alliance is the way to go. So let us talk the truth. This country is just like a church. So if we put leaders that will take away from us, then Kenya haitawacha kukopa.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, we believe in you. We have faith in you. We trust you. Ukituambia tukubali, tuwe nyuma yako, sisi tutakuwa nyuma yako.
Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi, and Ford Kenya party leader Moses Wetangula pulled out of NASA following the chic and messy political affair with Raila Odinga, whom they accused of having a handshake with the President Uhuru Kenyatta without consultation. The leaders also accuses Raila Odinga of being selfish after he denied to share the party coalition funds on claims the funds were meant for the ODM party. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haemba.
And yesterday marked the 5th anniversary of the declaration of the African Anti-Corruption Day by the African Union. And as the country continues to battle the ravaging consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic, the question on whether or not we have inched closer to a corrupt-free nation remains elusive.
Africa has suffered unbearable effects of corruption across socio-economic and political spheres. Today marks a significant milestone in the fight against corruption as we observe the 5th edition of African Anti-Corruption Day commemoration. But the question remains, have we as a nation inched closer to fighting corruption? In 2010, when Kenyans got the opportunity to revise its laws through the Constitution, corruption featured as one of the main issues it sought to combat. It is now 11 years since its promulgation, but was it successful in eliminating the vice? The first ever corruption scandal in Kenya was in 1965, less than 3 years after independence. It was famously known as the Ngei Maize Scandal. Paul Ngei, the Minister of Marketing and Cooperatives, then was accused of meddling with the maize marketing board and smuggling the crop, occasioning a shortage in the country. The Goldenberg scandal broke out during the first years of President Kibaki's reign. In December 2002, just after being elected into office, President Kibaki said that he would eliminate corruption in the country.
Let us not have people who will seek to swindle governments. Such people should not be alive. They shouldn't really, because government uses people's money.
Ironically, shortly after 2003, the Anglo-leasing corruption scandal broke off under Kibaki's watch. It became clear that corruption in Kenya was still deeply ingrained, and a few political and institutional changes could not grapple with it. The most substantive constitutional provision on corruption is Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity. The provisions under this chapter were specifically put in place to address the issue of corruption in the country. The chapter contains stipulations on the responsibilities of leadership, conduct, and financial probity of state officers, restriction on activities of state officers, among others. Narok Senator Ledama Olekina has claimed that all Kenyans are corrupt and no one is a saint. He said that most Kenyan leaders will fail the integrity test if Chapter 6 of the Constitution is followed to the letter. According to him, politicians are more prone to engage in corruption due to greed of money, and the power engaging in the vice will get them.
It is not that we don't know, but Kenyans are now becoming more aggressive in trying to come out and defend the Constitution of Kenya. This is the reason why the framers of the Constitution gave us that mandate to defend the interests of counties and their governments.
Many Kenyans have decried that the institution that has been tasked with fighting corruption, EACC, has largely not performed its core mandate effectively. There have been many graft claims, including the Kazi Kwa Vijana program, KEMSA scandal with COVID millionaires, NYS and NHIF scandal, just to name a few. Corruption is very much still rampant within the national government and found its way to the county governments. This year's theme, Regional Economic Communities, is critical actors in the implementation of African Union Convention on Prevention and Combating Corruption.
And the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries has been ranked as the worst performing ministry in the country. This is according to the Public Service Performance Management and Monitoring Unit, PSPMMU, which ranked the National Treasury as the best performing ministry in the country. The report, however, notes that none of the 21 ministries, State House, the Office of the Deputy President, and Office of the Attorney General and the Department of Justice achieved their annual performance targets in the country, meaning none of them had excellent or very good score.
An evaluation report carried out by the Public Service Performance Management and Monitoring Unit reveals that only 17 of the ministries achieved a good performance grade, while 4 ministries attained a fair grade performance. The report is the latest on the evaluation of performance in government and covers the 2019-2020 financial year. In the report, the bottom 5 ministries include the Agriculture Ministry, headed by CS Peter Munya, Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology and Youth Affairs, headed by CS Joe Musheru, Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage, headed by CS Amina Mohammed, and the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, headed by CS Najib Balala. The bottom 5 ministries also rank last in the performance of the their core mandate, signifying a problem at the ministries. On the other hand, the Office of the Attorney General, State House, National Treasury, and the Ministries of East African Community and Education ranked top in the execution of their respective mandates. The top ranking of the National Treasury comes in the backdrop of public outcry over increasing taxes, which have seen prices of goods and services go through the roof even as the economy stagnates as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Defense was not ranked in the report over what Public Service Performance Management and Monitoring Unit attributed to confidential reasons. Despite the ministry's failure to achieve their annual performance targets, the report indicates that the average budget absorption rate for the ministries and other government bodies was 90.59%. Only 2 ministries out of 24 and 83 out of the 223 state corporations achieved a 100% absorption rate, whereas 34 of the 114 tertiary institutions fully absorbed the allocated funds. In terms of externally mobilized funds, ministries spent 62% of the available funds, with 2 ministries fully absorbing the cash. According to the evaluation, only 29.8% of ministries, including State House, Office of the Deputy President, and Office of the AG, achieved this target, signaling that the government is paying lip service to the fight against corruption. The report says that 4 ministries whose identities are not disclosed achieved 0% on this indicator, meaning there was absolutely no effort to tame corruption. Among its recommendations, Public Service Performance Management and Monitoring Unit wants the results of the performance evaluation to be released every year and commensurate performance incentives and/or sanctions administered accordingly in accordance with the existing regulations. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
And life after stroke, serious injury is not usually easy for many patients, with the majority not having access to rehabilitation programs to help in their recovery. To this, the government, through the Ministry of Health, MOH, has committed to supporting rehabilitation services by fully strengthening their services through the expanded multidisciplinary workforce, and this during the launch of the National Rehabilitation Conference 2021. Calls on increased investment into rehabilitation services were made.
The World Health Organization recognizes rehabilitation as a key driver for health in the 21st century, and the need for rehabilitation services in the country is increasing rapidly due to the health trends and lifestyles that expose people to high rates of injuries and trauma, chronic diseases, and survival of people living with consequences of disabilities. However, in the country, resources towards rehabilitation services remains a thorny issue, with experts calling for more funding.
It is difficult. It is also difficult for Ministry of Health to get that money from the consolidated fund that is called the National Treasury, especially when you are put together with other social actors in that one pillar. It's a fight, sometimes physical, not just verbal.
Elsie Kagai knows the importance of rehabilitation too well following her mother's illness, who was experiencing body tremors from osteoarthritis and diabetes.
They diagnosed her with diabetes and told us this is not just normal shaking because of cold, this is tremors, and they come as a result of diabetes. But also she had lost a lot of her functionality, so she needed to be rehabilitated, and she was admitted for 2 weeks. She started undergoing therapy. For us, it was a shock that within 2 weeks she could move her limbs. Okay, so she was getting daily physiotherapy, and of course the other medical treatment that she needed. And actually, the day that we took her out of hospital, for us it was like, oh, this is amazing that she can be able to make a step.
According to World Health Organization, there are different types of rehabilitation services, including physical, occupational, respiratory, cognitive, as well as speech therapy. And as Catherine Zhao, a speech therapist, explains, awareness of the services is necessary, especially to parents with children with autism.
Assuming you have a child who is autistic and who is in the spectrum, and maybe you're a mom who is not able to afford one-on-one therapy with a speech therapist in the private institutions. So one place you can go to is the group therapy that runs at Kenyatta Referral Hospital, the main Kenyatta Hospital. So that's the first step. Another thing that you can do even before you think about getting a speech therapist, we normally have occupational therapy for those children for what we call sensory integration.
Nzau lauded the conference, saying it is very important for them because it will provide awareness to the Kenyans who are affected. To improve rehabilitation services in the country, the Health Ministry, during the launch of the National Rehabilitation Conference 2021, says it is collaborating with the World Health Organization to establish an assistive technology center of excellence in Kenya to serve the region.
When we want to embed the rehabilitative services into what you are calling UHC, begin from the very lowest level, the primary care network. This guidance has been done.
And a woman from Mombasa County has denied social media claims that she is a kidnapper and human trafficker. Sarah Aden says that she had reported the matter to police, and the allegations comes a week after 3 police were killed in Kilifi, Mombasa. And the County Commissioner Gilbert Kitio confirmed that a section of members of the public have been spreading fake news and warned against irresponsible social media use in the region.
It has come to my attention that there's a picture of mine that is circulating around the social media platform that I'm a child trafficker, and I just came to the public to let them know that these accusations are false and they are very serious allegations and they are not true. And I would urge the public to let each and every person know that this information is false and that it is not true at all. And the matter is at the police station, and currently we've left it to the authorities to handle it. I fear for my life. This is my life on the line, and I'm very scared, and that is why I made an attempt to make sure and report it at the police station, and currently they are doing their own investigations, and I believe by the end of we'll get positive feedback from them.
It is dangerous, especially now in Mombasa and the coasts at large. Yesterday we saw 3 persons. They were killed in Kilifi because of false allegation. I mean, just rumors. Watoto wanaibiwa, wanatoa macho. And we are seeing mob justice is coming up everywhere, kila pahali, mob justice, mob justice. We are telling the police to act swiftly about this case, to deter others who are spreading rumors. And anybody just forwarding and spreading, you are also accomplice. Wakenya watahadhari na mtandao. Mtandao unaweza washa moto. Tumeona watu wamepoteza maisha yao kwa sababu ya rumors za kijinga na yote ni mtandao. Ametoa watu macho, sijui ameliwa, huyu trafficking in person, anapeleka watu sijui wapi. Hii ni hatari.
Yesterday we reported the matter at Central Police Station, Mombasa. Then we were advised to also report to the DCI, which we did. So the matter is with the DCI. Few suspects have been arrested regarding these allegations. But as it is, our client is very scared. She has not reported to work. She stays at different locations because now she fears for her life because of these allegations.
And here's what's coming up on the front pages of the publication, starting off with the People Daily. The nomination test for the big 4 political players in the country, which includes the Deputy President William Ruto, the Wiper Party Chief Kalonzo Musyoka, and the NC Party Leader Musalia Mudavadi, not forgetting the ODM Party Leader Raila Odinga. And this is the headache that faces the party leaders, which is a delicate balancing act, as the Deputy President William Ruto, the opposition chiefs Raila, Kalonzo and Mudavadi seek to reward ardent supporters and also ensure democracy prevails in their parties as nominations for key positions beckon ahead of next year's general election. This story is highlighted on page 6 of the publication. Up next is the intensified police effort to hunt suspected killer officer. Sources say the search for the Nakuru-based policewoman, coordinated by Special Services Unit from the National Intelligence Service, that is continuing their manhunt for her yesterday. The sources told the paper that the mystery over the whereabouts of the fugitive policewoman Caroline Kangongo, who is accused of killing 2 women, entered the 2nd week yesterday, and this is an attempt to investigate the killing of the 2 men who were allegedly killed by the policewoman. And next up is the jitters over the Raila turn up in the Ukambani tour of President Uhuru Kenyatta. The local politicians and the players raised eyebrows following the ODM leader's surprise show-up during President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit of the Ukambani region. And Raila made the surprise show-up at the first stop of the president's tour at the Thwake Multipurpose Dam in Makueni County, where he hinted at a possible regrouping of the National Super Alliance. And Raila's imposing presence has opened a lead on the ongoing 2022 succession plans to market him as Uhuru's successor. Notably, though, during the recent presidential tour in the Nyanza region, the head of state did not tag any of the opposition heavyweights, including Kalonzo Mudavadi or Moses Wetangula. We'll talk about this later on the broadcast. The cartoon edition of the day is the 2022 election that is set to feed the new political parties, in this case perhaps an interpretation of how political parties will be cropping up in the year 2022, and perhaps, of course, some are registered already, but there are concerns as to the underpinning elements of ideology and policies and how to actualize that in terms of ending the personalization of political parties in the country. And the next cartoon is on the dilemma that Wanjiku faces when it comes to choosing between those who want to occupy public offices and those who are already in public offices. Mheshimiwa, she says, how much did you spend on the project? And he says, well, I don't know, but I did it. And the MP, perhaps who is seeking a re-election, says, why are you taking credit for my project? And the cat says beneath, Cheza Kamawewe, perhaps as an explanation of the dilemma that Wanjiku faces when it comes to choosing between those who want to occupy public offices and those who are already in offices and are seeking re-election as 2022 beckons. When we get back from the break, we discuss matters that pertain the political developments in the country. And of course, this includes the succession plan of President Uhuru Kenyatta, who wants the coalescing around a cause by the parties that made up the 2017 opposition National Super Alliance outfit. But that is far-fetched because of the competition between the members of the coalition who all want endorsement from the head of state. After the break, here on the broadcast. And we now cross over live to the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, is seeking to fill the positions that were made vacant following the resignation of 4 commissioners after the 2017 elections. And here's what's transpiring at the moment at the KICC.
Not a single day did we ever decide issues of the board and management through votes. I'm a consensus leader, I'm a strategic leader, and I'm transparent. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wanderi. You are a registered voter?
Yes, I am.
Okay. At which?
The last time I voted at Kanyagia polling station in Ikeni.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wanderi. I'll now ask Mr. Morris Kimuli to ask you a couple of questions.
Mr. Wanderi.
Yes.
I just need to start by reminding you, you said kangaroo is the lions of Embu. I want to remind you now the cliche is about Yumbisi Mixed Day School in Kitui, where I went. It's no longer lions.
Yeah, that is in Kitui, not Embu.
Now,
that's nice to hear.
Help me understand you better. You said that you went into a seminary with the intention of being a priest.
Yes.
Now, I'm looking at priesthood, and I know that by their very nature, a priest is supposed to walk the straight and the narrow. He's supposed to exhibit high standards of decency and morality. Is also supposed to be a mentor and a leader and to teach the gospel. And needless to say, he is supposed to be celibate. Now, what aspect of priesthood defeated you to enable you say that it was not your calling?
Actually, it's not the aspect of priesthood. One of the issues I'd like to pick from your word, pick from what you have said, decency and morality is not a preserve of the priest, it's a preserve for a lot of people. So I looked at it from a point of view that I felt that as the firstborn in the family, because I'm the firstborn, and from a poor family, peasant farmer, I realized that probably if you become a priest, the rest of my siblings might find it difficult to grow and to get decent education. So with that, it's a concern for others that really made me do that. I also felt that I'd probably contribute more as a father of the family than the father of the Christian. Yeah, so I thought that would be more useful. And at the same time, because of my siblings, I felt that I should be able to do that. So, but what I know is that out of my experience at seminary, I carried out Christian values, which I had started because from my parents.
That's all right. I get it. Okay. Now, you also say that you worked as a presiding officer in one election. Is that so?
Yes.
You say that you worked for 48 hours.
Yes.
Generally, that comes with a lot of fatigue.
Yes.
And you could, when you're tired, you could make mistakes.
Mm.
Do you think it is permissible for the IEBC to be allowed to make some mistakes as a result of emanating from the fatigue of their officers?
The reason why this happened, let me put it a little bit, is because when we started distributing the votes in the morning and went out almost throughout the night, the following morning, the district commissioner realized that one of the stations did not have a presiding officer.
I get that. So what I'm saying is, I've also worked as a PO.
Yes.
I know we work for long hours.
Yes.
Long hours.
Correct.
So what I'm asking is, if you are a presiding officer,
yes,
you actually don't sleep because you finish the counting, and you know, sometimes those days you will be required to carry the boxes to go and report at the constituency tallying center.
Correct.
And you don't get to sleep.
Yes.
Do you think there should be an excuse to IEBC to make some mistakes and have some irregularities in the voting results because of fatigue?
No, I don't think so. I would imagine that the systems and the structures are not, that are in IBC, are such that work distribution is well done. People can make mistakes because error is to human, but not because of fatigue. It should be for other reasons, because fatigue could be there, but under the circumstances at the IEBC, I would imagine that there's proper distribution of functions and duties, such that nobody should feel. Okay, during the election time, there is pressure.
That's when mistakes happen, because of pressure.
And probably poor coordination.
So my question is, sir, does the law excuse irregularities on election day?
No, it doesn't.
You are sure about that? You've offered yourself for election?
Yes.
Will the courts normally, ordinarily nullify an election just because there were irregularities?
They are within the law.
Within the law?
Yes.
So if there is one irregularity in an election, the court will nullify?
No. It is according to my understanding of the electoral law.
Yes.
Those irregularities, unless they constitute factors that make the votes invalid, they should not be allowed. The election should be upheld.
The irregularity should affect the results, the outcome of the election.
The outcome of the results, and that is in Section 83 of the
Thank you very much.
Act.
Now, in your case study, sir, when you were answering this question on dead voters, you made a proposal, and I want you to defend it. You said one way of dealing with 2 million dead voters found in the voters register is to have IEBC advertise the 2 million US voters in the Kenya Gazette and in 2 dailies of national circulation. Was that you?
I'm not sure. You can read for me what I wrote.
Well, that's exactly, I'm reading exactly what you said, because I have your...
Okay.
So do you think there is a framework for, publishing a notice in the Kenya Gazette? And do you think that's the best way of dealing with dead voters in the register? You publish in the Kenya Gazette names of people, you publish in local dailies.
I would like to add that when I was doing that case study, the first thing I said was that, first of all, is to establish the authenticity of that information as IEBC to see whether it is correct. If it is correct, we would liaise with the register of persons to be able to identify those members who are in the voters register and they are in the voter register, so that we can update the voters register, remove the dead as part of the mandate of IEBC.
So your suggestion was, before you remove,
yes,
you need to publish their names in the Kenya Gazette?
No. Before we remove the names, we'd have to seek the information and verify that information with the registrar of persons.
You are aware that most of the deaths are not registered immediately?
Yes.
And at any one particular point in time, there will be dead voters in the register?
There are actually dead voters throughout the election period, but there's a cut-off point. It is 3 months before the election. And therefore, we should clean the voters register before that time.
Okay. You also stated in your case study, sir, with respect to unregistered youths, and you said it is the responsibility of political parties to mobilize the youth. Do you know whose responsibility it is to ensure people register to vote?
Yes. Before you are registered as a voter, you must get the ID. The work of issuing of ID is the responsibility of the registrar of persons. That was part of my answer, because if I can remember well, I said that I would mobilize the political parties together with the registrar of persons to issue ID, because the political parties have an interest in these people getting registered. For them to be registered as voters, they must go through the process of getting the ID. So I look at the whole span. The politicals can mobilize people to go and take the IDs, and then the IBC would be there to register them as voters. So I was looking at it as a stakeholder involvement.
So as a matter of law, yeah, I get it, it's a stakeholder involvement. As a matter of law, according to you, who has the principal responsibility to ensure people register to vote?
It is the IBC.
It is the IBC.
IBC.
It is the IBC that is supposed to design means and ways of ensuring people register.
Yes.
Not political, but political parties may have a secondary role as a stakeholder.
Of mobilization.
Of mobilization.
Yes.
Now, if you go to a polling station on voting day and you find that your name is not there, or your name is misspelled, or there's a problem and you cannot vote, whom would you blame?
I would blame IBC, because AIBC's full mandate to register me as a voter. And then I would only do that. Of course, if they come to a point where I cannot vote because my name does not appear, and if my name does not appear, then it is the responsibility of IBC to have my name. And because there is a register, the master register that the principal register that they have.
So you would blame,
I don't appear there.
You would blame IEBC?
I would blame IEBC because I have my ID and I have presented myself at the polling station. I blame the IEBC.
Do you think you as a voter also has a responsibility to ensure on voting day you vote?
Correct, because the register is open long before, about 60 days before the elections, and I can go and confirm whether my name appears in the register or not.
So
if it does not appear, then I would seek to know why. I'd seek to be registered if it does not appear. But that is a situation whereby you are talking about, I have already registered and my name does not appear. I think
So I was talking about voting day. So you understand that a voter has a duty before the election day to ensure that his or her name is on the register.
Perfectly.
And who has the duty in law to ensure that the voter knows that he or she has that duty to inspect the register?
The IBC.
The IEBC.
Yes. Through voter education?
Yes.
Yes.
Or somebody else will take you on voter education. But just one question, just briefly, what were the key, what would you say are the key failures of technology in our election process? Very, very briefly.
Basically, the key area of failure in our technology was, during the last election, was the transmission of votes through the technology that was, through the technology. That was one. And communicating that information, the election results, to the tallying centers. So the key area of technology was I had to say network at that particular time. Yes.
Network?
Yes.
Okay.
According to the report from IBC.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kimuli. I'll now request Dr. F.S. Abdallah to ask a few questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karibu Bwana Wanderi. Bwana Wanderi,
yes, sir.
From your CV, I've noticed the impressive qualifications you have. You have a master's degree in management and economical science, right?
Management science.
Management science,
yes.
Right? Now, I just wanted to confirm, I've seen also on your papers that you're director of Roots Credit Limited, 2017 to now, then managing consultants, patent consultancy, executive director, Sawana Group of Companies, the property development company. Could you please confirm whether you are still active and are holding directorship on those three companies?
Currently, I'm a director of Roots Credit Limited. Yes, currently.
What about the Spartan Consulting, executive director of Sawana Group?
Sawana Group, I am no longer a director there. Spartan Consultancy, yes, my business I do. I'm a managed consultant, as I had said earlier, so I'm still doing that business.
So you are still active as a director in the two companies, not the Savannah Group, right?
Yes, no Savannah Group.
All right. Okay. So do you hold shares in these companies?
Let me put it this way. Spartan Consultant Services is actually a sole proprietor. Roots Credit, yes, I have some small shares in Roots Credit.
All right.
I'm a shareholder.
You're a shareholder. At what
Yes.
percentage there?
Eh?
How, I mean, are you active in the shareholding? Are you one of the leading shareholders in Roots Credit?
No, not one of the leading. I'm a small shareholder.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a small shareholder, but
Right.
I'm active in the management of, I share one of the committees of Finance and Operations Committee of
Right.
Roots Credit.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Now tell me, on your achievement in your CV, you claim to have converted, or rather bring up the investment from 2 billion to 6 billion?
Actually, it's not. That's an error. When I was looking at the report, it was from 21 billion to about 44 billion.
Oh, so the 2 billion to 6 billion has got no relevancy whatsoever?
No, it was bigger than that. That's what
Yeah,
I
of
mean.
course.
Yeah.
I heard you this morning saying that it came from 21 billion to 46 billion, right?
44.
44 billion.
Yes.
So that's a 100% increase in 4 years.
It's more.
All right?
Yeah.
All right. That's good. That's a 25% increase of value per each year. In which areas of trading or investments did this 100% increase come in from?
Within the period of 6 years, we attracted investors in the textile sector, big. We attracted investors in pharmaceutical, in big way. Local investors who wanted to manufacture and process macadamia for export. We also
wanted to, or they did wanted to. The macadamia processing was in place.
Yeah, it was a decision of the board and management. What I did there is I tried to make it seamless in terms of decision making. What I mean seamless is that all the management decisions that were made were processed quickly by the board. So if there are investors who wanted to come and invest within EPZA, the management would bring that information to the board, we process it, and they would proceed. So that is how we are able to even expansion of EPZ, which was known lightly from Athi River and Mombasa, and we were able to take it to places like Kitale, in Mtwapa. So we did that, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I understand, Mr. Andre, but that doesn't answer my question. Where did, from 21B, when you came in, the 21B was the value of assets in your balance sheet?
Investment in the EPZ.
Now, and those, yeah, so that's the shareholders' funds in the balance sheet. It is the investments, either in form of land, capital injections, and whatever.
Let me clarify how EPZ works.
Right.
So that we can be on the same tune. EPZ as an authority regulates investors and attracts investors who come to the authority. So in this particular case, what we did was that when an investor comes to EPZ, he leases land. And we are looking at how many investors have come to EPZ during that period to invest in EPZ. That is what we call the value. It is not the balance sheet of EPZ as a company. It is the value of the investment from the varying investors from outside Kenya and the local.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in that case, it's not increase of the assets, the balance sheet, it's an earning as a form of interest or rental.
No, it increase in the value of the investment by investors within the EPZ zone.
So the investors will spend money to construct or their own units or something?
They would do that.
Right.
Or they could hire even go-downs that are already built.
Yeah, so if they hire the go-downs, then it comes in the profit and loss account as a rental income.
The rental income to the EPZ.
It will come a rental, yeah?
Yes.
So what was the trading activities? What was the trading differences? You see, the value could increase in form of assets by extra land allocated by the government.
Yes.
That will be increase of your value. What we really wanted to be educated on, what was the trading activities? How did you increase the earning for you to be able to contribute to the exchequer?
We were actually moving. Our strategy was to move from getting money from exchequer to be able to finance EPZ operations. At that particular time, by the time I was leaving, we were still getting money from exchequer because we had not completed the process. So we were earning income from the rentals for the companies that have invested, either built land, because when you build land, you pay rental on that land that you have built on at a certain rate per year. When you hire a go-down, you pay the rentals on that for that go-down. So EPZ income itself was basically from the rentals.
And we'll be getting back to the Kenyatta International Convention Center for the ongoing interviews in search of the 4 Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, who are set to take over from the former Vice Chairperson of the Commission, Connie Maina-Nkatha, Commissioners Margaret Mwachanya, Dr. Paul Korugat, and Dr. Roslina Kombe, who fled the country days before the repeat poll on the 26th of October 2017. And of course, it's now 15 minutes past the hour. In under 25 minutes' time, we'll be taking the account of the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim, who is with us here in the studio. And that is coming up next after the break here on the broadcast. And good afternoon. Welcome back to the broadcast. You're watching New Day Kenya. With me in studio is the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim. And we talk about President Uhuru Kenyatta's succession plan. And this is what's coming up on the front page of the People Daily. And this is the nomination headache for party leaders, including the ODM party chief Raila Odinga, the president and opposition chief Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and the ANC party chief Musalia Mudavadi. And the paper does say that the allies' headache is that it's a delicate balancing act for the Deputy President William Ruto and the opposition chiefs Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, who are seeking to reward ardent supporters in Parliament and also ensure democracy prevails in their parties as nominations for key positions beckon ahead of next year's general election. That story is highlighted on page 6 of the publication. Honorable Farah, to you, before we also take a look at the succession plan by the President. Where is the balance, and how will the party leaders respectively balance between democracy they want to maintain within the party and awarding staunch supporters who have been defending the party in and out of Parliament? In this case, with respect to ANC, Wiper Party, the Jubilee Party, of course, to some extent, and Deputy President William Ruto's now party associated with him, the UDA Party, in 2022.
Are we talking about the succession, or are we talking about...
The party nominations first.
The party nominations, yes. For what?
How will the party leaders perhaps balance, in this case, for the classical cases of Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, the NC party chief Musalia Mudavadi, the Jubilee Party's President Uhuru Kenyatta, and UDA to some extent in 2022? That
is, if there is going to be a grand coalition.
Of course, yes.
And that they're all going to come under one umbrella.
It's supposedly.
Supposedly one or two umbrellas. Mm-hmm. And in these umbrellas, of course, well, I think it's a bit tricky. It's very, very tricky. It's not easy. It's not easy in the sense that when you have a number of parties forming a coalition and in which they do not want to have a war of attrition between themselves, mm-hmm. The tendency is to see if they can all come to a common ground. And within those common ground, there's a kind of a negotiated democracy, what you call negotiated democracy. It's not easy. It's a bit tough. Mm-hmm. But now I think we're putting the cat before the horse. There has to be a determination on exactly what kind of arrangement these parties can come together and who's going to lead it. Mm-hmm. That is where that's where the details are.
Okay. Now,
and once that is sorted out, mm-hmm. Once this grand coalition we're talking about is able to negotiate and agree on who is going to be the leader and who is going to be the deputy and who is going to be supposedly the chief minister in the absence of a constitutional or change, mm-hmm. which we feel can be also sorted out either just before or after, but some kind of an administrative arrangement can be made in there to allow that. You see, the moment that itself has been put to rest, mm-hmm. the rest of it becomes a little bit more easier to deal with. But that has got to be put to rest first.
Okay. Now, that again points, or is a pointer to who will take over from the president in 2022.
That's where the problem is.
Okay. Given that, and then your party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, the former vice president, has said that he will not back Odinga for a third time without a measure of reciprocity. The NC party chief Musalia Mudavadi talks about what he says is the lacking trust. And then you have Gideon Moyo of KANU, who appears to be not actively engaged. And you have Moses Wetangula, who are the NASA principals. Mm. How will President Uhuru Kenyatta then balance between all this without a favor for any candidate? Because his intention is to have a united opposition front in 2022.
It's not easy. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, there are too many issues in there that needs to be resolved. You have to understand that Kalonzo backed Raila twice for the presidency. Mm-hmm. And in the second time, there is an agreement that regardless of what the outcome is going to be, whether Raila is going to be elected as the president and serve, well, whether Raila will become the president mm-hmm. or not, he has to support him for the next time. You know, these are the two shots or the two stabs at the presidency that he supported him for. The understanding was that, look, whether you come in as a president, you don't come in as a president for whatever reasons, whether you're rigged out or whether you are genuinely defeated. The next election, you are going to support Kalonzo Musyoka for the presidency.
As per the agreement in 2017.
That's the agreement. I mean, one of these days is going to be fished out. And there are people who negotiated that. There are eminent Kenyan personalities who are also eminent legal scholars who are part of that. And I'm sure they'll come out at some stage, and Kalonzo will fish out that document at some stage. So the big issue is, if you cannot trust Raila with the pact, what can you trust him with?
And that is the concern at the moment.
That's a concern, yes.
That's not only an opposition concern, but also concerns the president.
It concerns the president. It concerns everybody in this country. As for Mudavadi, it was there. He was his deputy in
the Pentagon
2007, and there was an understanding to that effect also, that he was going to support him, which he never did. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that one is a slam dunk. You can only talk about a coalition in which Raila can be the grand old master and the respected doyen, or you could say the guru of the politics in the country. And he assumes a very respectful elder statesman in here. And whatever, but not to come and serve as the president of this country when his friends who are there with him are there. And I want to trust you. I want to trust you with your word. I want to trust you with the pacts that you go into, the agreements, the pens, the signatures you put in somewhere. If somebody cannot be trusted with that, then you can't trust that person.
So it's the time for the ODM party leader to support
another opposition candidate. It is a time for the ODM party leader to revalidate the trust of Kenyans in him by making good on the promises that he made. We say in our faith, and I'm sure they do the same also in Christianity, that there are three critical value bases that a respectable human being, men or women, must observe. Failure, which you are not just an apostate, you are worse than an apostate. Say, alamatul munafiq.
Signs of hypocrisy.
Yes. The word munafiq is used in Swahili now, and everybody uses that.
Also in Arabic.
It's an Arabic word, but that's where the origin is. And the origin basically says, إذا حدث كذب وإذا وعد أخلف وإذا اؤتمن خان. He will lie when it's convenient for him, or she. He will not hold the trust. There's a difference between a trust and a promise. He will not observe the promise either. You see what I mean?
Both.
Yeah. The trust is what you're entrusted with for safekeeping, including power, by the way. The promise is the kind of things that we've already gone through. You promise that I'm going to support me for this time, I'm going to support you for the next time. If you can't do that in any faith, in any value system, African value system, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, then of course, you are at the base of the human morality. Now, for God's sake, what this country has never experienced, which is where my problem is honest leaders. I think the closest. And when you look at the leaders that were there before, with all the imperfections, we claim right now we have got a new dawn and we're looking for a second liberation, or we're looking for all those kind of things. And we had a tendency of saying that some of the leaders that were there, who were the colonial era leaders, Moi and the ones who came after him, Kibaki, and we might have our issues with them. But for God's sake, Moi gives you a promise. He holds that promise to the end. If you can't hold that trust, then it's a problem. And that is precisely the reason why, I don't even know why we're talking about politics right now. Look, you had the Jubilee government, all the promises that were made. Nobody has come back to the people and told them, listen, we made this promise, we made this promise, we made this promise, we made this promise. We were able to achieve so much as far as this promise is concerned. We are not able to achieve anything on this, and these are the reasons.
Basically an audit of the pledge.
An audit of the pledge itself and say, I'm seeking forgiveness from Kenyans for having not kept my promise.
Is that, in your view, one thing that is likely to come from the political establishment?
I don't see that coming at all. I don't see that at all. At all. Okay. I'm a leader owning up to his own shortcomings and mistakes and saying, I take responsibility for this. If you don't have a leader taking responsibility for any of these things, we're doomed.
Now
it's a dearth of leadership. It's a desert of leadership.
Okay.
It's a drought of leadership.
Okay, you mentioned that, and the Ford Kenya party chief, that is Moses Wetangula, in yesterday's paper did clearly say that the president had a clarion call for us, and that was to unite.
Yes.
And I mean, it paints a picture of the president departing or is not in close proximity with the party that he once loved in terms of taking over from him, and in this case, the Deputy President William Ruto comes to the picture. Then what do you think might have made the president so disgruntled that he wishes to have a united opposition take over from him in 2022?
What I think is a very general, broad realization on the parts of Kenyans, most Kenyans today, that you cannot trust the Deputy President with the leadership of this country. Not that there were people before him who delivered on any trust. But there's a fear that a lot of gains that are made are going to be rolled back. And the Deputy President strikes everybody as somebody who can be brutal, who can be despotic, dictatorial, somebody who, you know, the little that people have seen about him is going to roll back everything. He's going to take back this country into a single party kind of thing, and might even push for a change of the constitution to remove the term limits the way they did in a number of countries in the region.
In Uganda, for example,
which
needs parliament, isn't it?
And when people see him very often with Museveni, trying to, they say actually the DP is cultivating deep political and commercial interest or ties with Museveni. And Museveni is going to be his mentor on these things, then you know what to expect.
Okay, that is the scrapping of the age limit, which made Uganda...
Scrapping of the age limit. Well, of course, there was no term limit in Uganda in the first place.
Okay, but there was the age limit.
But there was the age limit, and that has been scrapped.
Above 75 and below 35.
That has been scrapped. So any limits, it's like president for life.
What the opposition says in Uganda as the lifetime presidency.
Yes. No, not lifetime. It's lifetime, yes, but president for life.
Okay, but in Uganda's case...
For as long as he lives.
Yes. In Uganda's case in 2017, the National Resistance Movement, the NRM party, had done so because they had the majority in parliament. And of course, when you look at our democratic credentials or report card, we are far much better placed than Uganda. Do you think then, as you mentioned earlier in your submissions, that parliament would allow the scrapping of the term limits in Kenya?
Yes.
Even under this dispensation?
I have no doubt. This is the same parliament that passed Kenya as a de jure single party in a matter of hours.
Post-1982?
Yes, post-1982, as a single party. This is a parliament that has mutilated this constitution, God knows how many times. I can't remember how many times there were, but a good number of times in which things were changed, things were inserted. And as long as the executive is going to say this is the direction we want things to go, they will go.
Which means then that
BBI was opposed initially by a significant part of Parliament itself. But when it came to the voting, what happened?
The House voted, in majority.
So members of Parliament cannot, that's why we say we the people in our Constitution. The preamble to the Constitution, the beginning is we the people, which means it is the realization on the part of the framers of that Constitution that this Parliament sometimes cannot be trusted. And it's very easy for somebody to get any numbers of members of Parliament to support this, anything that basically the leadership is going to be keen on achieving through Parliament. So the possibility that Parliament can one day, people will be envelopes, brown, yellow, whatever it is, and everything is going to change hands. And Parliament will just go in and vote like a flock.
Okay. Now, the president during his Ukambani tour on Friday had the 3 governors of the Ukambani region alongside him, including your party leader and the former Vice President Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. But the ODM party chief Raila Odinga showed up to the surprise of even Charity Ngilu, Kivutha Kibwana, and Dr. Alfred Mutua, and also your party chief, Kalonzo Musyoka. Does it point perhaps to an attempt by the president to, by all what it means, to ensure that there is a united coalition against the Deputy President William Ruto in 2022?
Well, I think there are a number of issues that make it imperative on the president to basically negotiate his way through that very tightrope. And do that. He has to go on a very serious balancing act. And the balancing act is basically what he's doing right now. He wants to have everybody on his side. Mm-hmm. The only person he doesn't want to have on his side, and the breakup is solid and totally the deputy. But the rest of them, I think he has to do a bit of a hocus pocus, You throw all the balls up in the air and you keep on grabbing one after the other and make sure that none of them falls. And for the very simple reason is that he has to get this script done. Even if somebody is going to bolt, let them bolt after unfortunately, the original plot was to get the BBI done. So he had certain responsibility to maintain everybody stays in the compound until the BBI is done.
Which is now at the courts.
And now is in the courts. And the likelihood that these courts are also going to uphold the rulings of the lower courts is very high, because you cannot expect the Court of Appeal to shoot down all those, I can't remember how many, 23 grounds?
More than 19
grounds. I don't think so. And any 5-6 of those grounds are sufficient to torpedo the
BBI plan.
The very fundamental parts of the BBI plan itself, including the distribution of the
expanded executive.
Expanded
distribution of the 70 new constituencies.
And that distribution. Okay. So then the other option is to start the game all over again, and do it the right way. Either bring it through Parliament and progressively goes all the way to the people, or start with the people, comes through Parliament, and then goes back to the people again. Not through the handshake and the manner in which they did, and these claims that Waweru and Juneta, I don't think those are grounds that legally can hold water in that significant fashion. So what basically we are looking at right now is that Uhuru has not lost that mission.
Okay.
He still has to go back on that mission.
And
he needs everybody in the compound.
Okay, back to the drawing board again. And of course, the BBI was meant as an entizer to have all the political figures I mentioned on board, including governors like Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya and Governor Joho, because of the expanded executive. But that's now lying with the court, isn't it?
Yes.
And suppose some sufficient grounds are upheld by the Court of Appeal, which was earlier ruled upon by the High Court. How do you then perhaps convince these political figures to stay within the framework the president wants them to stay when the enticing factor, which is the BBI, appears to be fragmented by the court rulings?
Like I told you from the beginning, BBI, I think there's a chance that we're going to start the process all over again. And there's a chance that we might not have the referendum before the elections. We might get the elections before that. Well, there are a number of ways you're looking at it. One is use Parliament to extend on the life of the government and the Parliament itself for 6 months and another 6 months because of that compelling situation. And the compelling situation, you could say safely, and I agree with that also myself, is because if you are going to go for elections using this constitution, which is do or die, and winner take all, you lose, you win, which is very unfair, very, very, very unfair. And that basically makes everybody do all that it takes, legally or illegally, legitimately or illegitimately, to take power, grab power. Then, of course, the country can become a failed state easily, the way we went close to that, and say, now we need at least another 6 months or 1 year for us to be able to get this script right, so that we're going to have, all these parties and all these new additional positions which are going to be included in the system. And that way, then you can have a referendum before the general election, and you have them in 2 different years. We can have the referendum in 2020, 21, 22, sometimes early, and then have the other one in early 2023 or something like that.
The election, which is subject to parliamentary approval. Subject to parliamentary approval, and it's not difficult to get parliamentary approval for information. Do you think then that the grounds will be sufficient, the threshold?
Well, look, for members of parliament, it's 5 to 90% of them are going to not coming back. And if a member of parliament is not coming back and you tell him you might have an additional 6 months or 1 year, he will say, thank God, I'm happy, I'm past this. And that goes also for the MCAs and for everybody. Any extension on the life of this given parliament is welcome to the majority of members of parliament.
All right. Now, what we have currently is more or less a defunct opposition outlook that your party did belong to in 2017. They themselves, and let me just quote Charity Ngilu, that if we will not unite, then the Deputy President William Ruto will have an easy run to office. Then how will they shelve their egos here to get power in 2022?
Well, they have no choice. You see, at some stage they have no choice. There are other fundamental issues, the things I mentioned to you before, that we need to trust one another. And if you can't trust somebody with the pact where you put in your signature, then you're lost on whether to trust that person with the reins of the country. You see what I mean? And that goes for everybody, for information. That goes for many people. So my position on that is that, look, there are a number of things here. The group will definitely come together in the first place. And then they will work very hard and decide or determine who becomes the torchbearer. I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think the other member to the handshake, who is the
ODM party leader.
The ODM party, who was a presidential candidate for many times in the past, is going to become a compromise candidate for the rest of them. I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think it could be any of the other two. This thing is between Kalonzo, Mudavadi, and Raila. So then it narrows down to the other two. And then, of course, what is it? What are the quid pro quo? What are the other scratching the backs of Raila? And what does Raila need in addition to this? Or rather, once this is now the scenario. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of it looks like it's going to be a miracle for somebody to be able to resolve this issue. And it can only be resolved, in my opinion, after very exhaustive engagement, serious exhaustive engagement, not a day or two, or just like that. So that is the most difficult issue that needs to be sorted out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, as we look forward to the next 11 months.
Once that is sorted out,
yep,
everything else can easily follow suit.
Okay. And of course, which needs much more elaborations than what transpired in 2017 when the opposition from the NASA coalition then came and signed an agreement, which again today they say is the subject of mistrust between the parties that formed the National Super Alliance in 2017. And at the best interest of Honorable Farah Maalim, because of the ongoing IEBC interviews in search of the 4 commissioners, we are ending the broadcast. And many thanks for your time here in discussing the Kenyatta succession and, of course, what this portends for the outlook of the opposition that the president is trying to coalesce and lead them into 2022. We'll see you tomorrow morning here on the broadcast.
Thank you.